Hey, how are you? Man, I tell you what, I hope you are ready for storytelling time. I'm Kilroy, and we have got some things going because I'm hell when I'm well, and I am feeling good today.
Welcome to Kilroy's Outlaws and Legends Behind the Music with your host, multi-award-winning music producer, Eddie Kilroy. And now, here's your host, Eddie Kilroy.
Yeah, I am here. I am here. I am. Well, I'll tell you what. Hey, I've mentioned this before on podcasts. If I say something and you say, oh, Kilroy's probably not right, feel free to go to look up something or fact check or something because everything I am telling you is straight from my memory from the 4 decades in Nashville. And I try to get everything correctly, but sometimes the correctly part of my mind gets incorrect. And, straighten up, Kilroy. I'll tell you what, I'm going to talk about a guy that has always been one of my favorites, Johnny Rodriguez. You haven't heard that name in a few days probably, but he's still kicking, still doing shows, still the same great Johnny that he ever was. Big old smile. And I'll tell you what, anybody knows me knows that I like women, okay? That's my first choice. That's my only choice is women. So I can be comfortable in saying that Johnny Rodriguez was one of the most handsome men that I've ever seen. When he was young and signed with Mercury Records, oh, Lord have mercy. Johnny was from a little town about 60 miles from the Mexican border there in West Texas, and ended up doing a whole lot of things. Had a little band around there, but the band didn't last long. It broke up because Johnny and a couple of his buddies, they got busted for really nothing. They put him in jail, and not for long, maybe a day or two, because it was really, I don't know whether it was a misdemeanor or a felony. It depends on the local ordinances and laws around that thing. But anyway, he was in jail for a very little while, and he was 18, I think 19. No, he was 18 at that time, and he was in a cell by himself, and he was singing. And lo and behold, some man in the jail. And truthfully, I've heard who it was. I can't really remember. It could be just the jailer. It could be Texas Highway Patrolman working out of that jail, or it could have been a Texas Ranger. I don't know. But they heard this guy singing and said, man, that guy can really sing. Well, he had a friend by the name of Happy Shahan, who owned a ranch in Bracketville, Texas. And John Wayne was in the process of putting together the movie The Alamo. He needed the perfect setting. He sent his people out looking for the right place, and they saw this place. And by the way, let me back up a little bit. I didn't even tell you why Johnny was in jail, okay? Johnny and a couple of his friends stole a goat. Now, their plans for that goat was to barbecue it and have cabrito, which is, it's goat, it's barbecued. But that was the only thing he was in jail for. He didn't rob a bank, kill anybody, hit and run pedestrian, nothing like that. Just stole one goat, and you go to jail, especially in the Hispanic communities because they love their goats. Tell you something else, I do too. I love cabrito and a Dos Equis. Oh, man, that's some good groceries, I'll guarantee you. But getting back to Johnny and his career, the guy that heard him in the jail had called Happy Shahan. Now, in the meantime, I think I forgot to mention that John Wayne built the replica down exactly like the Alamo in San Antonio. And his deal with Happy Shahan at the ranch was, I'm going to build this Alamo here, but after the movie's over, you can keep it on your ranch. Well, that happened, and oh, Lord, I guess he hired Johnny as soon as he got that call from that law person in Sabinal that Johnny was in jail, but he could really sing. And I don't know whether he sent for Johnny and he came to Bracketville to see Happy Shahan, or whether Happy went to jail. Anyway, that doesn't matter. Happy put him on. It turned into a tourist attraction, the old replica of the Alamo. And Johnny was there singing and also doing some cowboy stuff like shootouts, the makeup deal that you see in many old West towns, so to speak. And Johnny could really sing. So Happy decided to to take him to Nashville, shop him around, see what's going on, if they like him as much as Happy liked him. Sure enough, they did. At least they did at Mercury Records, and he started having hits. His first one, the first one I remember by Johnny was "Pass Me By." If you're only passing through, but he had a lot of hits, a lot of number one records. You always come back to hurting me. I told you, pass me by. Uh, just get up and close the door behind you. That was another good song of his. And that's the way love goes. And riding my thumb back to Mexico. It just went on and on and on. Very, very clear voice, if you remember, and a handsome young man. And he was just a super guy. One time I was at the Rodeo Houston. It used to be when I was young, Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, and it became such a big event. Probably, I'm serious when I say this, okay? And again, this is off the top of my head. I would believe that the Rodeo Houston is the biggest one event in the state of Texas. It started off in a small arena and grew to the eighth wonder of the world, the Astrodome, and now it's in Reliance Stadium, as you know. And my brother and my sister-in-law, a couple others in my family were on committees there. And that is not a big deal because say, hey, I'm a committee man. They have something like 3,000 committee members to pull off Rodeo Houston. Nevertheless, I'm going around, I'm walking, talking to people out there, and they had an area where there was a barbecue cook-off, and I knew some of the guys there. Old ex-bull rider, bullfighter with a Cajun kid. He had one. I went over to talk to Cajun for a while and visited with him, and there's a guy walks by, and he's got a button about this big around, and it says, Bésame Caprito. And I said, sir, can I buy one of those? He said, I don't know if you can buy one or not. And I said, well, I'd be happy to buy yours. I have a place for it. And he said, well, you can just have it if you like it that much. I said, well, thank you very much. There was a big thing going on in Nashville every year. The Broadcast Music Incorporated, BMI, there have been Banquet of the Year where they give the awards out for the song that charted the most and the songs that were the biggest and the songs that had 1 million plays. And it goes on and on. Well, I ran onto Johnny there, and I had that in my pocket. Everybody has a tuxedo on. It's once or twice a year, everybody gets to dress up in Nashville. And he was all dressed up too, slick back. And I said, hey, I got something for you. And I reached in my pocket and I held it out. And his eyes got as big as $50. I mean, he said, wow, where did you get it? I said, down in Houston. He said, what are you going to do with it? I said, I got it for you, Johnny. And he just grinned. He said, well, let me have it. And he pinned it to the lapel of his tuxedo. And he walked around and showed that thing off. And to 90% of the Nashvillians, where they're not exposed much to the Hispanic culture, they had no idea what Bésame Cabrito meant. But some did. And Johnny got a big kick out of it. And for you folks out there that don't know, it goes back to him being in jail. And I was playing off of that. And it said, kiss my goat in English, kiss my goat. So he was thrilled to have that. I saw him some years back. He's still working, he's still touring, but I was riding with a fantastic group of gentlemen. I say group, 500 all told, called the Tejas Vaqueros. And we have treks that last about 5 days through the mountains in the hill country of Texas. So they hired Johnny, and he was there, and hadn't seen him in 10 years or so. And we did the hugging and the hellos and how are you and everything. And he said, I still have that button. I still have that button. I said, hey, I had to work hard to get that button. I didn't tell him how easy it was. But nevertheless, he was singing just as good as he ever sang. And he was doing all of his hits, the one I liked the most, not the most, but one I really liked, because every now and then he'd throw a little Spanish in one of his records. And in Jealous Heart, someone, go, if you haven't heard that, you don't remember it, go to YouTube, Spotify, or somewhere, and search for Jealous Heart by Johnny Rodriguez, okay? and you will really enjoy it because he sings about half of it in Spanish. He kind of skips around with a verse, chorus, verse in English, and he had a problem that some people have. Not a problem. Things just don't work out for some people. But Johnny was married 3 or 4 times. One time to Lana Nelson. I'm going to pause for a moment and let you digest that. The last name should give you a clue. Willie Nelson's daughter, Lana. Didn't last a long time. They were married, I can't remember, 7, maybe it lasted 8 years, more like 7 months. 7 months with Lana Turner. Willie may have disapproved. I don't know. No, it was not 7 months. I was putting you on 7 years. Months are too short even for Johnny Rodriguez. But we've had a really good time. And all the talk about Johnny being such a great guy, you hear it, and it is. Go to YouTube. Go to Spotify. Go online and listen to Johnny Rodriguez. An event that you folks may not remember him. He's not over with, okay? He's got a few years on him, but he's still out there working. So go to his website also. Now, here's what I want to ask you to do. I want you to consider Total Feeds, our sponsor, okay? They have Total Equine for horses. They have Total Bull for bulls and for bovines. And Total People makes you feel good, and you don't have to be in a garden to take it. You can take it in your house, in your car. You don't have to be sailing on a boat to take it or on the golf course. It's just something that Dr. Harry Anderson came up with to make people feel better. It's called Total People. So what I want to ask you to do is go to their website, totalfeed.com. Check it out. See how they're doing. You'll love them, and hopefully you'll love me for turning you on to it. This is Kilroy saying adios. Bring old paint up. I got to get out of here.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Kilroy's Outlaws and Legends Behind the Music. If you have any thoughts or questions about the content, email them. Kilroy Outlaws and Legends, all one word, at yahoo.com. That's Kilroy, no S, Outlaws and Legends, all one word, at yahoo.com. And don't forget to subscribe. Third-party use of any part of this podcast without the expressed consent of Eddie Kilroy is prohibited. The Kilroy's Outlaws and Legends Behind the Music podcast is a production of Eddie Kilroy.